Good morning, friends. So it is a super early morning over here. I am up much earlier than I usually am. It's like 5:15 a.m. here. Normally I'm not up closer until 6:15, 6:45. My husband got up early that morning, got up with him, and instead of going back to bed, I just decided to get some things done. I used to wake up all the time before my kids like this, but I guess when I was pregnant with my third, I kind of stopped that habit of waking up early and never really got back into it. I do wake up 20-30 minutes for my kids most days, but this like hour and a half to 2 hour before the kids rarely ever happens. So I actually enjoyed having a really peaceful morning, getting a new bread recipe tested out. So this is not my bread recipe. It is adapted from a recipe I will link below. It's a lady on Instagram. She is an herbalist and she shares a lot of alternative recipes. This is a high protein recipe. It is a yeast bread recipe. It's not fermented. I would love to experiment with it like I do with every yeast recipe and try to experiment and make it into a sourdough recipe. This is my first time making the bread. Turned out really good, just to go ahead and let you know. So I'm getting that ready here early this morning in the early wee hours in our quiet house. It was just, I forgot how peaceful it was when you're up this early before the family and just get some tasks knocked out before the busyness and the chaos of the day begins. Since I am up so early and I'm not having a real breakfast until closer to the kids waking up, I am having a collagen drink. This is my absolute favorite chocolate collagen from Perfect Supplements. I've talked about this many times. I'm not having coffee, like a Yoki coffee like I normally do, because this is first thing in the morning. I don't have coffee until after I've eaten. So I'm just going to get this quick 20 grams of protein in my body with the raw milk and have a frothy chocolatey milk to get my day started before I will have a real breakfast when the kids actually wake up. I usually make one of these for the kids as well. If they happen to wake up before I have breakfast finished, I'll just make them a quick little frothed up chocolate milky collagen drink. They love this just as much as I do. So I've shared this sourdough discard Dutch baby recipe a while back on this channel. It's one of our favorites. This one is fully sourdough. You can make Dutch baby with flour, and that is a really good option, but I like to keep our unfermented flour to a minimum, and we are having this yeast bread today, which is not going to be fermented, so I'm not really wanting to make a Dutch baby that has unfermented flour in it. So I'm taking my active starter. You could use discard. I just happened to have fed my starter the night before, and combining it with about 6 to 8 eggs, a cup or two of discard, a little bit of maple syrup, salt, vanilla. Now, normally this recipe calls for a cup of milk. In the past, I've always made it with a cup of milk, but we are kind of in a milk crisis right now. Our milk providers are feeding a calf, so a lot of their milk is not available for sale right now. So we are having to ration the milk. So I'm not about to use a cup of that in this Dutch baby. So I just wanted to test out the Dutch baby without the milk and see how it turned out. So I'm getting the cast iron preheated and getting some dishes started. I'm always multitasking in the kitchen. Y'all have seen me do this many times. When something is preheating or simmering, I will always switch over and do dishes. We don't have a dishwasher in our home, so everything is hand washed. And I did want to talk about here, if you have noticed the last 5-6 videos probably, I have mismatched cabinets. That is because we have been working on this kitchen renovation for like 3 years now. We have little pieces here and there done. So much of it is unfinished, but we are finally almost to the cabinet phase. I say almost because we have them picked out and we have part of them purchased, but we don't have all of them purchased. So we were testing out paint colors. We are going to try for a color this time. The wall that you see behind me here by my window will be bricked. That is called cement board that you see up there. It is what the brick and the mortar will actually attach to. So one day I will be very excited to bring y'all our kitchen renovation, but that day is not here yet. I'm now moving on to folding a load of laundry real quick, and you can see beside me our little incubator. We are in early parts of spring. We are actually incubating guinea eggs here, and we had one already hatch. You can, if you might, can see it crawling around in there. It's like the little black flutter in there. I'm checking on it. It's just so fascinating to watch eggs hatch like this and add more to our flock. We are actually adding our first flock of guineas, so we were really excited about that. So back to the kitchen renovation. I've said this many times before. I used to get very down about not having a finished kitchen, and seeing so many other people on platforms such as this with finished perfect kitchens and almost being just envious of that and thinking that, kind of having self-pity on myself because I'm in my kitchen so much, yet my kitchen is unfinished. God would remind me that the way my kitchen looks does not matter one single bit. What matters is the love I pour into my family when I'm in this kitchen, preparing, filling, nourishing, healthy meals for them, keeping the dishes tidy that we use, that we are blessed to have to eat upon, just being positive about what we are blessed to have. So yes, our kitchen is not finished. I have no idea when it will be finished. There are many things that have taken place before getting the kitchen finished, but I just wanted to remind you there that you may see perfect kitchens all the time. You will not see one on this channel for probably a very long time, and it probably will never be perfect because kitchens are meant to be lived in. They are not meant to be perfectly crisp, pristine, clean all the time. There's always dishes, there's always food being prepared, and in our space there's always renovations going on. So I just wanted to remind you that what your kitchen looks like does not matter. Your kitchen might be finished, but it might feel like it's messy all the time. You can never keep it clean, but just remember, it doesn't actually matter what it looks like. It's more so the service and the attitude and the love you show when you're working in that space. Okay, so I'm now adding 5 tablespoons of lard to that hot cast iron skillet. You can't see it because I had to add a frame, but the skillet is now bubbling hot. You can put your oven at like 400 degrees to preheat your cast iron skillet for the Dutch baby. Now, normally I would have used butter here. We're also out of butter. I don't have milk to make butter, cream to skim make butter, and our grocery store has been completely out of the butter option that we like to buy for months now. So we're just on this like dairy fiasco right now, but I'm so excited that within a month to a month and a half, we should hopefully have our own fresh milk. I can make all the fresh butter I want, but I did test out using lard as a replacement for butter, because you kind of put the butter or lard in the bottom of your skillet and then pour the Dutch baby over top, and it kind of simmers together. It's like this really flavorful buttery crust. The lard tasted just as good. Was actually very pleasant with the flavor of the lard because it's not quite as creamy as butter, but it still had a very delicious taste. So just a little tip there: if you're out of butter, you want to make a Dutch baby, you can use an alternative high quality cooking oil. So like lard, tallow, coconut oil probably would work too. I don't know. Coconut oil might give a little bit of off flavor. You'd have to just try it. So at this point, my youngest is awake. And if y'all know toddlers, when they wake up, they immediately need something to eat. So I did not quite have the food ready. A lot of times I do have the food ready when she wakes up, or again, I'll give her that chocolate collagen drink, which I'm making one here for her now, but I did give her a quick little bowl of blueberries to satisfy her until the chocolate drink was ready, because toddlers just wake up and immediately need food. My older two were a little better about waiting 5 or 10 minutes, but I still like to have the majority of breakfast pretty much done when my kids wake up. So she's an early riser some days, most days, and I just didn't quite have the breakfast ready, so we're going for the chocolate collagen drink until breakfast is ready. I'm telling y'all, if y'all haven't tried the Perfect Supplements chocolate collagen, there's no like added artificial flavors. It's just cacao, collagen, and a little bit of monk fruit. So good. Okay, so the bread has now risen for about an hour in the bowl. Yeast breads don't take nearly as long to rise as sourdough breads, so we are getting it into our baking vessel and getting it ready to cook. I'll pop this in the oven once the Dutch baby comes out, which is looking absolutely beautiful. You see the sides of the Dutch baby rise up so beautifully, but unfortunately they sink pretty quickly after you pull it out of the oven. So if you want to get any pictures of your Dutch baby, just a tip is to take them immediately, because within about 10 minutes this will sink. If you do the flour version instead of just the sourdough version, it will not sink as much, but still so delicious. And I shared this in my last video, I believe. Anytime I'm melting down fruit, cooking it down, pureeing it down for a topping or a side dish, I always cook it in a little bit of bone broth. So this is just some frozen blueberries that I simmered down with about a half of a cup of bone broth. And that's just an easy way to get bone broth in to your meal first thing in the morning for breakfast. It adds a little punch of protein and you don't ever taste it. And there's so much nutrition in bone broth. Moving to the outside morning time activities. I'm always hanging laundry. I don't know how many times I've hung laundry on this channel. It's so relaxing. It's just a really peaceful part of our morning and just reminds me to be thankful for every article of clothing that we are blessed to have. We are like right on the edge of having spring grass. It's starting to grow, but it's not tall enough to sustain our animals, so we're still having to take hay out every day. My youngest loves this chore with me, taking hay out to the front pasture, but we are also in the process of getting more fencing finished. You see the fencing I'm walking through right here is not yet finished. There's so much on our property just not finished. As I mentioned before, these types of things, pastures and places for animals, have kind of taken a higher priority at this time than things such as our indoor kitchen. So our cow right here, who is antsy to have her hay, is hopefully calving within the next month. So we have been checking her daily now just to watch for signs of birth, because you don't ever know exactly when they're going to calve. So we're checking things like her udders. We can see them slowly starting to fill up to start producing milk. And you're also looking at, one thing I've just recently learned is the top of their tail. Their ligaments will start to loosen a lot like the female body preparing for birth. And the top of the tail will become really wobbly and just like almost like you could just move it off of her back. So I've been checking that daily as well too. So we're really excited for her to calve. I'll bring y'all along for that. Hopefully, if I can catch any of it, bring y'all the story for that. And then of course, I'll be bringing y'all all of the raw milk, dairy recipes, cheese making when we get there. So that is just a really upcoming, exciting thing for our family. Speaking of babies, I'm also preparing for our fourth baby. So I've talked about spinning babies in my last 2 pregnancies. I am an advocate of spinning babies. I learned about them in my first pregnancy, but I didn't actually do this routine you see me doing here. So they have a 25-ish minute stretching routine that really works to open up the pelvis, stretch ligaments, keep things balanced to prepare baby to get into optimal position for birth. So that's what I'm doing here. I try to do this at this point in pregnancy about 4 times a week. At the end of pregnancy, I'll be doing it every single day. Only like $16 and you have it forever. Like I said, I've used it in my last 3 pregnancies. So it was a very inexpensive investment that has served me so well in all of my pregnancies, and just optimally preparing your body to birth your baby the way that it knows how. Our protein bread came out beautifully. I didn't really tell you the ingredients in this, but this is higher protein because it is filled with cottage cheese and egg whites. So you get an extra boost of protein, and it looks so much like real sandwich bread. It's really bouncy, had a really good flavor. I will definitely be making this again. It won't be like our normal sandwich bread recipe because like I said, I do like to have sourdough, fermented, properly prepared grains, but in a pinch, maybe a couple times a month, we will definitely turn to this yeast bread high protein recipe. So I will link the Instagram account where I got it below. She has a channel where she sends out free recipes all the time. None of it is paid, all free. So check her out if you want to try out this high protein yeast bread recipe. It was so easy to make as well and turned out so delicious. Now I wanted to share a little bit with y'all about our kids' toy situation. In a recent video, I was cleaning out in the playroom and I had a request about how I have minimized our playroom toys. Because you've been around for a couple of years now on my channel, I've went through many seasons of talking about toys with my children. So I want to give you a quick update here on the current toy situation. Since it was asked, I haven't shared about it in a while, so I hope you get a little bit of inspiration on kids' toys. If this is not something for you, then you can go ahead and click off, and I will look forward to talking to you in the next video. I remember with my first child, I wanted every Montessori inspired toy that there was to offer because I thought my child needed that, and he had so many Montessori style learning toys, and they were great, and he did play with them. But looking back, more often he played with real life tools, kitchen tools, and played with me more than the actual toys. And with each child, I've realized how much less they actually need. I used to do a lot of toy rotating. I have videos on toy rotations. I had like bins where I would rotate week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 out of each month and rotate my kids' toys out that way. And that worked for a while, and they did enjoy the excitement of the new toys. I know toy rotations work really well, and I used to like advocate and share about that. And it worked for us for a season, but it was getting to be a lot on me to have to remember to rotate the toys, and they would ask me to rotate the toys, and I'd be in the middle of like a cooking task. This didn't work for us for more than about 6 or 8 months, I'd say. So at this point, all of my kids' toys that they have are access to them at all times. So I'm gonna walk you through what we have in the playroom. I'll walk you through what we keep in our main area, like in the right outside the living room. And then in their rooms, they literally have, my son has magnet towels, he has books. And in my daughter's room, all they have is a playhouse, a few baby dolls, and that is it. So their rooms are very minimal. All of the like main toys that they play with are downstairs. In the playroom, it is minimized so much. I used to have one of those 8-cube shelves. I actually had it in that last video, but I have been like brainstorming how I can make this room more effective for my children. And I think we're finally here, because they have been playing out here so much more than they had when we had all the toys out here on the toy shelf. And I love the idea of a toy shelf, and it worked well for us for the past like 4 years. We've had one, but I just moved it into our homeschool area and now have homeschool supplies on it, learning supplies, learning books, because my kids are getting more to the learning age. We don't actually officially homeschool yet, but we do like a specified learning time where we do go over a few things, biblical stuff. That is moved to the homeschool room. It is no longer out here in the playroom. So in the playroom, all we have is this one corner where I keep all the playroom toys, and they stay out here. My kids know they stay out here. If they take them into another part of the house, they know that they come back into the playroom. So we had this chalkboard in here for a while for like schooling stuff, but we don't school out here anymore because this room is not heated and cooled, so it fluctuates greatly as the temperature fluctuates here. Have their rainbow stagger, that's very open-ended. They can make tunnels, they can make rainbows, they can make ramps, very open-ended. We have their mat where they can roll their cars around. My son really loves that. We have one box of trucks and cars, because all of my children have always loved trucks and cars, not just my son. They can put together these little black road pieces. They make all different configurations of roads. I do love those. And then we have their toy animals. They'll often like to build little cities or farms and use their animals. We did have more animals than this, but some of them have gotten lost. And you did used to separate them by safari animals, farm animals, woodland animals, but since some of them got lost or eaten by dogs. And lastly, we have our little small table. I used to keep this in the kitchen for the kids to eat at. No longer do that. Keep it out here for them to kind of have a little work table to work at and play at. And we have 2 of our toy subscription toys that we did keep. We kept the house, this multi-use house that they can build and configure. It's very open-ended. I love that about it. All 3 of my children have loved it at all ages of their playing. And then one little puzzle. I have puzzles in another part of the house, but this is the one puzzle that stays out here because my youngest daughter does really enjoy that right now. And then the other thing we have out here as far as toys is a music bin. They just have musical instruments. They can play a little band, pretend like they're playing a concert. They love that. And then I said that's the last toy because the rest of this isn't really toys. So we have our swing jungle set. This is where they play the most out here. They use their nugget couch, gym mats, and they just play on this acrobatic swing all the time. Constantly. And then they have a couple of like bikes, push toys out here. So this room has become so easy to clean now. I just have the kids pick up their toys. If it needs a little bit of extra organization, I'll come in here and tidy things up a little bit as needed. Sweep, vacuum, wipe down surfaces, super easy. There's not a lot of stuff to move like there was before. There's not as many surfaces to clean as there was before. There's not as many toys to keep inventory of, and we have loved this transition. This is absolutely my favorite yet, how this playroom has been. Minimal is truly better. I will show y'all a couple of the other things we have out in the other area of the home, like our building blocks and stuff. So I'm very picky now with the toys that I keep. If the kids get something or a gift, I do let them play with it for a while. If I notice they're not playing with it after several months, I'll kind of put it back. If they don't ask for it for a while, I'll just go ahead and donate it. If they do ask for it, of course, I'll let my kids play with it. I'm not like this mean mom that just takes the toys away from her kids and is like, oh, well, they just disappeared. I don't ever lie to my kids that way. I do tell them that, you haven't played with such and such in a while. Are you okay if I donate it to another child who might play with it more than you? And they're usually more than happy to do so because they realize they don't actually play with the toys as much as they thought they would. So let's go into the main area of the home and I'll show you where we keep like the living room toys. So in our living room, we only have books. There's no toys that get housed in our living room. Puzzle cabinet, which is starting to be overflowed because now we have a variety of size puzzles for different ages. Most of these are like 50 to 100 piece puzzles. That's just the range my kids are at. So we keep all of these in our living room because this is something my husband and I like to do with our kids. So I keep them in these little zipper pouches and keep them organized. It was so much easier than storing boxes of puzzles, and the kids can see what puzzle they want to do, and this has been a really good way to store puzzles for us. So this is, I don't really consider puzzles toys, but I guess you kind of do because you do have to keep inventory of them, keep them in your home. But this is our little puzzle cabinet in our living room. So this is the only actual like toy thing, but this is like a family thing. We do puzzles together as a family all the time. And then here are the actual like bins of the 3 like multi-piece toys we have. We have the Lincoln Lugs, the train tracks, and the block set. So that is it. This goes along with the block set, like the shape sorter and stuff. So that's it. These drawers just have coloring books for the kids to look at. And that's it. That's all the toys we've kept. It's been so great minimizing the toys this much, just having these few. They know that when they get one out, they have to put them back in the toy drobe, get it nice and neatly in here, stacked up. If they get out a coloring book or any type of like learning book, they put those back as well. All they have are like matching memory games, a puzzle of the United States, couple of these like learning boards. This is really more like a learning thing than an actual toy. So that gave you some insight on our toys, what we actually chose to keep, what we actually got rid of, how our kids have their toys in our home. They're just out and about. One spot I did forget to show you is their kitchen. They do have their kitchen, which I guess is kind of like a toy. They can keep their food here, any extra dishes. It's probably a mess right now because I did not go through this, their kid food. But again, they know that if they get something out, they have to clean it up. We talk about every night. Mama cleans her kitchen at night. They clean their kitchen at night, and that's worked out wonderfully.